Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order on December 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the town hall. Motion to adopt the agenda as presented. So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the agenda? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, we have 2 minutes tonight. The first one is the regular meeting of December 4th, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as presented? No. If there are none, somebody make a motion to accept the minutes of December 4th.
So moved.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? The last and final minutes is the special budget meeting of December 11th, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as presented?
I didn't have any.
Anybody make a motion?
So moved.
A second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Planning Commission, you guys are up.
Well, thank you for getting us on your agenda. And basically, I wanted to get select board up to date on where we're at. For the past year and a half, and since August of 2022, we started the discussions on the wastewater project and the time bonds engineering study, and it led to us each month having it on our agenda where we investigating of other technology that's out there, mainly plant-based systems, and had guests come in to speak on propulsion cells, the construction of biological systems, and dispersal systems. And we had many from the public in our meetings to hear what we had to say and to discuss. And at this point, you know, we've found a lot that could be a potential help to the town with some other technology. An example is of the machine. It's called a living machine, but it's trademarked by the Todd Engineering Group. It's at the Sharon Rest area. And 15 years ago, that was constructed as a living machine. And the system is now in full swing. And it was originally designed to do 6,000 gallons per day, and it's now doing 20,000 gallons per day in its same footprint. So just an example of what living machine can do. That's constructed in the greenhouse because it's in the Northeast. A similar system for us for on a large scale would have to be in a greenhouse. Or it's done on a smaller scale individually in smaller grouping. So again, we're touching on the subject a little bit here tonight, but we've talked with some experts on all this. And the Planning Commission would like to continue its discussion and research. As long as the select board would like us to do that. So here basically to find if that's something you want us to do with the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I think it's helpful, Matt. And I think if you stick around, I'm gonna give a update on the where we are for wastewater. And I think, you know, these alternatives that you're talking about fit into what I'm gonna be discussing. So I think it'd be helpful if you, I think it's helpful. Also, I think if you stick around and see what I'm gonna say, you'll see why it fits in what we're gonna be doing.
Well, yeah, it's something that we took on as a commission. I think we're a planning commission, so we're basically planning ideas. And it's in parallel with what the engineering studies, it's not against it, it's just in parallel finding information that maybe they aren't, or maybe they are, and we're understanding it a little bit better. A couple of things that we did to help the public understand a little bit more. I think if you go to our minutes and see some of the recordings of the programs that we put on, we'll find some good information. And we're excited to continue it.
I just want to add, I've been to several of your planning meetings and through Zoom, and I think you've had some people in person talking, and they're excellent, and a lot of information is current. Exciting to see what they've done in other towns and other villages, big cities, so it's out there.
As we get closer, do you think this will be like a report that the planning commission will be compiling or recommendation, or do you see it going down that road?
Whatever you'd like us to do as a commission.
I think for right now, one thing that'd be definitely helpful is on these bi-weekly meetings is if someone from the planning commission could be on, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, you could send us the invite. What times do you use all those?
It's at one PM on Wednesdays. Yeah, it's a tricky time, but that's when I saw it.
Are you zooming it or is it?
It's all been,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should continue. Personally, I'm not, as an individual. Why not?
I think it's time to start working with some of the state people on that, where they're, I think they're understanding that there's other alternatives out there that we need to look at for small villages like us. And, there's some new legislation that just recently passed that may be helpful to us.
What was that?
It's S1 -125 restricted wetlands. I won't get into the guts of it right now, but it's of interest.
thanks, Matt.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You have the bids. Rick, open the bids for the village pump. Repair the rock wall that was destroyed during the flood. This is a rebid because the original bids that were out, they were unable to complete the work before October when they can go in stream, so we rebid it again. And I guess this will happen to some of them. We're gonna do this as soon as you get the stream. Yeah.
First bid is from Ivor Stevens ground maintenance, $16,350. And his insurance papers was in with the bid.
You gotta get your letter opener.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm on the spot here. Next one is P&L Trucking. Also their insurance finders in there, $18,950.
Say that again.
$18,950. Next one is Danielle's Construction. I was stuck. Never heard of it. I don't think this guy wants to go. The city insurance was also in there, $49,500.
Whoa.
Hey, I'll do it, that counts.
As a policy that we don't accept the bids, right, tonight, that we'll review them and then make a decision on the next meeting, which will be in January.
So I'm assuming they give all the descriptions of what they're gonna do in each of those bids. Yeah,
It's a,
not just the
it's a
bid.
scope of work.
Mike, you're up.
Well, after today, we're gonna spend a few minutes out fixing some roads, so we've got a few washout, not horrible, but I have to keep us busy for the next 4 or 5 days anyway. And chasing the mud. Cost us again. That's pretty much what we're gonna do now.
The
So,
Parker Hill easement,
You wanna talk about?
Doesn't really matter. You want me to do it? So the Barker Hill easement is at sort of the end of the class 4, where class 4 meets the class 3, and it's where Scott Jensen has built his new house out there. And we're just gonna we got an easement from Dale and Tina Wyman to build a turnaround there, which is actually a better location for us than turning around in the barnyard where we used to up there. So, pretty much better spot for everybody. So, that's basically, you guys just have to accept that, right, Morgan?
do we need a motion to accept it?
I think, yeah. that was
You have it all signed and whatever?
Yeah, I have a copy of it if you wanna look at it.
No,
It's pretty standard, it was, Kim helped me with it, it's just a pretty standard, easement. Pretty routine language.
so you're only gonna plow on the class 3 road, they have the
It's
responsibility of their
just
road.
a little bit, what's still class 4, but the class 3 kind of goes down there halfway anyway. But before we had to turn around in Dale's dooryard right by the barn, and it's not good. I mean,
Yeah, cause it was hurting the barn, the foundation.
Yeah, there's a big wall there. So it's it'd be better for us. Cause there was no place to really put the
You wanna
snow.
see this
up
one?
there. They paid for it also.
they paid for it all?
Yeah, they did all the work.
Yeah, we had quite a few trucks going up and down and up and down. We didn't have to put any culverts in, it. They didn't,
No, there was already one that. I mean, they basically brought the level of their class 3 standards. It's that good.
So reasonable,
Somebody wanna make a motion then to accept this?
so
I'll make a motion to accept the easement on Parker Hill Road for the Jensens.
You have a second?
something.
Any discussion other than what we had? If not. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we have a driveway access permit.
That I believe is, you put that on there, John?
Yeah, I put that on. You want me to speak to it?
Sure.
At the present, driveway access permit is $500 that you have to put down, and then when you get it in, then you get it back. And I felt that that should be reduced to $100 because of the driveway access permit. When you put it in, that's it, it's all done and over with. If you put in a logging access permit, it's probably taken out afterwards and there's more damage done. So I'd like to see that stay at 500, but the driveway access permit be 100.
So you want to add that?
Well, you
Yeah.
add it or reduce it to
Yeah, but you want to keep it 500 and you want to add 100.
I want the logging permit to be 500 and the driveway to be 100.
That's just the people when they make driveways for their houses or.
Yes. Because they're normally done within a day or a week of when they submit the $500.
So they're gonna get their $100 back. You're saying they're not gonna get their $100 back?
We get it back.
They
No,
get it back.
We get it back after they're completed.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Listen, a new driveway, a new home,
Yeah, any new construction.
Yeah, or to a field or.
Sounds reasonable.
What was the thought for having 500 originally, because of damage type thing, or what? Has
And
it ever
they do
been a
have-
problem?
Sometimes the contractors, you have put a problem with them making a mess and then they leave it and you're stuck with it to repair it. So that would cover the next of it. Loggers are the biggest ones.
so who
So go by
inspected?
that, I don't understand why you wanted to do something, so you said that there is a problem?
I want to reduce the height, the driveway access, not the logging. The driveway access, because when you put it in, it's a finished product at the end.
Okay,
It's all done,
okay,
and you have no more to do with it,
all right,
so.
yeah, okay.
Approved and
So who inspects it after it's done?
Mike,
Oh, Mike, you
Kim?
The 500, are you just, keeping that just for loggers, or is that for anybody with a temporary, because we've had fiber optic that needed it, who left a mess, so if
Yeah,
you just
that's it.
state logging, then,
anything other than a driveway access permit.
so you're talking temporary, so you're gonna call it a temporary access,
Yeah,
still
yeah, there's a permit.
up to 500.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay,
Who was the motion?
I heard somebody saying it over here.
No, I did not the driveway, but the easement.
I think, well, it's John's motion, I'll second it.
It's all right.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to change the form, right?
Yes,
To add the language to that. Is there anything else, Mike? Other, no?
No, I don't have.
Okay, Kim?
I have a question for Mike.
Go ahead.
If it's gonna freeze the next few days, what about the dirt roads? Are you gonna do any grading before it freezes? or-
Well, that's our plan, we'll have to do it at night.
Yeah.
You have to kind of catch that window. in
Because you
between.
got all these ruts now.
Yeah, I mean, we got a pretty good walk down on Hillingsworth Road, which is only one house up in there, but probably half the road's gone right now, so. We gotta wait for it to freeze up enough so we can even get in there and work too.
That Hazeltine?
No, this is down off Eastman, so
Oh.
go down Eastman, up in Zach, and where Zach used to live up in there. We got some work to do in there. And straighten up some of the ditch lines down on Eastman, so. Upper end of Eastman's really bad, I've been traveling that road unless we had to, so. It's muddy here, it's a lot worse there.
Hmm.
But that's, we're gonna have to pull some gravel out of there too, so. But yes, our plan is to get out and try to swing some of the roads before it freezes back out.
Okay.
Kim?
All I had was the quarterly reports, I sent everyone the reports, I didn't know if you had any questions on where we stand quarterly.
I think
I
it's-
gave you a few extra pages because it included a lot of the accounts that we don't deal with. I think pretty much it was the expenditures up to page 6 is usually what we deal with. And it's looking like, we're staying within 49 to 50% because we're halfway through the tax for the year.
Right.
I think we're doing pretty good, maybe one or two are off. If you had any questions, that's all I had to add.
Anybody?
No.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Committee reports?
Yes, so, last week we had a pretty spirited discussion about the wastewater, and so I've spent the last 2 weeks, I've been talking to people in town, I've asked questions of the new town attorney. I've talked to the people from the state, I've talked to the engineers, and I've been doing research myself. And so I'm here to try to answer people's questions that they had about the wastewater plan as it stands today. And I did a little PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Okay. So first, the question, a lot of questions about the sewer fire district issue. And so I want to go through this. I want to tell you how that concept originated as far as I can tell. The problems with it. And then I want to talk about how it looks like the recommendations on how the town should proceed with the wastewater. Keeping in mind that the end date for this grant is September 30, 2026. So we have plenty of time. So first, I went and I looked back at the 60% presentation. And going through my notes, there had been a prior mention of this concept. If you go back to this first. There had been a prior mention of this concept of fire districts, but it looked like when it really started getting going on the issue of the fire district was after the 60% presentation. This is from the 60% presentation where the engineering firm mentioned this issue of a sewer district. So if you go to the next one, Morgan. But actually, if you go back to the 30% presentation, that's when they didn't call it a district at this point, but they have the plan there. So that is the Vermont Planning Atlas that delineates the village center. And then there's a 0.25 mile buffer around it. And why was that 0.25 mile buffer created? Because those are properties eligible for funding. They're saying, well, these people can get funding to be hooked up to the sewer system. That's why we're going to extend it out 0.25 miles. So that is the district. And you go to the next. Now, why would you create a sewer or a fire district? Well, under the plan that was created by Ty and Bond, we're going to get to this. Only the homes in that district would pay for the system, the user fees. So the sewer fire district allows people to have to pay for the system. They're going to be the ones to say, hey, do we want the system or not? It's their decision, they're the ones paying for it. But there's problems with that. Number one, this is usually done in reverse. What happens if you go and you talk to other towns, when they want a wastewater or water system, usually the people in the village center, they say, hey, we want this. We know that people in the town wide don't want it, but we want it. So then they come to the select board and say, hey, we want to create a fire district so we can get grant money to create this sewer system. Well, the town's already obtained the grant. So here's the next one. And here's the grant agreement. And you can see the town of Grafton is listed as on the grant agreement. We've obtained the grant. So what does that mean? That means the whole town's gonna have to vote. This is the town of Grafton is the grantee. The whole town's gonna have to make a decision whether or not we want the sewer system. Not just people within the fire district. The whole town has to vote because we are the people who the town got the money. So the other issue is affordability. The total cost of this plan as it is today is over $8 million. Go to the next slide. In order to meet EPA sewer affordability requirements, the cost per user, which they call an ERU, would need to be $1,363 or less. So they say the average user is per year, it's going to cost that user $1,363 to be on the system. Go to the next slide. But with the grant money we have today, that $3.9 million grant we currently have, unless we get any more grant money, the average cost per user is $3,548. That's well above what the EPA says is affordable for their sewer affordability formula. So there's a huge affordability issue here. In order to get it down below that threshold, 1,204, I mean, the threshold, the EPA threshold, below the 1,300, you have to finance the entire cost of the project through grants, not through taking out a loan at a bank, because then it still won't qualify. So you have to get another grant to cover the rest of the money, almost $5 million. And that takes it down to then an annual cost for people that use the system of about $1,200. So we have problems with one, the grant agreement. The towns have got the grant, so the whole town, no matter if it is just you guys paying the fees, the whole town's gonna have to vote. Towns have got the grant. Second is affordability. As you can see with our current grant of 3.9 million, the cost per ERU per user is 3,548, well above the EPA formula. In order to get that down below, you have to get an additional grant to cover the rest of the cost, which for last week, when I asked, they almost laughed at me when I said that there's another grant. So then there's problems with the law itself, which I think everyone has picked up on. This is the law. Persons residing within the limits of a fire district or voters in town meeting shall be voters in the fire district. That's who gets to make the decision. And what's the problem with this? In that fire district, there's a lot of business owners, a lot of second homeowners who have no say. So that's a problem. We can't change the law. So we have those three problems: affordability, the grant itself, and the problem law. So there is no, to make it crystal clear to everybody, there is no, what, and this is what the impression we all had, was there was a funding requirement that from the state or federal government that said, in order to get this funding, you're gonna have to create this district. That is not true. And while there are these districts, and they're common, they're all over Vermont in these rural areas, there's over 70 of them in Vermont, there's no statutory requirement, you have to create one to get a wastewater system. Again, the thought process was to allow those that have to pay for it to make the decision, but the town obtained a grant, and the current proposed system that has been put forward in the 60% report is unaffordable, and as I learned from what Joe, and I'll go ahead, if it's all right for you for me to tell him. Joe told me as I walked in here tonight, he is not going to allow his land to be used. So that takes this whole proposal basically off the table. So where do we stand now? Where does that leave us? Well, then I wrote this before I published it. So it's a continue down the path of getting a 90% report that would leave us with one option, which that option is now off the table. And that's if it would be too expensive, it would have a shortfall. And the other option is this: take a pause. Right? Go keep your bags. Take a pause. Again, the awarded end date is September, end of September 2026. There's a possibility you get an extension. And ask the engineers, let's explore these possible alternative solutions, which Matt mentioned some of them. And give them that some. Today, I wrote a letter to the state, and I asked them as my role as a selectman and town of Grafton to look at these possible alternatives. This is cut and pasted from my letter I sent to the state. A cluster system for the houses in the village area, excluding the buffer, that would exclude also the MKT and the N. I know that the MKT is not interested in hooking up to the system. Bob's here, but I've heard the N is not that interested in either. I don't know. I haven't spoken, so I emailed Angela today, and she did not. She's out today, so she can get back. I attached a report. Warren, Vermont has a cluster system, which is basically you have different little clusters of septics that different houses hook up to that have a problem or could have a problem. And I attached that report on the Warren system that I sent to the state. A smaller distributed treatment system that would again exclude the MKT and a living machine system like Matt discussed. And they've told us multiple times that the state won't fund it. What's on the EPA site that they approve these type of systems, and they have a whole document about these living machine systems, sent that to the state. Any other feasible lower cost alternative, which I have not listed, that can be supported financially just by the users of the system. And if there are no feasible wastewater alternatives, then a PFAS system that would install, dispose of, and replace point of entry filters at regular intervals without a full-blown wastewater system. So that's what I've asked, just in my own capacity. I've asked the people from as a selectman in this town, I've asked the people of the state and engineers to explore. Now I'll tell you, but they have told me on the cluster system and the living machine that the grant will not cover it. And what I asked for them today is specific, not to say the grant will cover it, but ask for specific sites, either some type of law, some type of regulation, or something in the grant itself that says it will not cover these alternatives. to really get a true answer of why is it not covering alternatives, or is it simply because somebody's not familiar with these systems? I don't know if that's the case or not. Or is that simply the case? Or is there really is a regulation to the grant cover? If that's the case, then that's the case, because we're not gonna, but we need that answer. So that's what we've been doing for the past, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks. And what the last thing I want to talk about is how would it be managed? Can either be managed by the select board, can be managed by the board of a fire or sewer district, or can be managed by a wastewater or sewer commission. I was told, when I asked this question last week and given this, that we have to create a sewer or wastewater commission. Unless there's some kind of regulation that I don't know about, this is what the law is, and what the law says is the select board of the town, the trustees of the village, or the fire district shall constitute the board of the sewage system commissioners. Or we can create a sewer commission if we want, but the select board can create one. And it's sort of like the planning commission, we'd appoint the people and they'd be running the system through the county. So that I think answers a lot of the questions people have, hopefully. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you still having the public meeting in January?
I think we're gonna postpone.
Do you have this PowerPoint online, will it be?
I gave it to Morgan so she can put it on. I created, I mean, it's just, a lot of it, it's either my slide or something I pulled from the 30 or 60%. But yeah, she can, Morgan's welcome to post it.
And is there, any new date for the 90%? I know you did have one last time, but.
They were planning, we met with them last week, they were planning on moving forward. But like the end of January, I think, but at this point, I think, especially since Joe has made the decision on his, he doesn't want to use his property, which is totally justifiable. I won't take over my properties either. That I definitely gonna have to take a pause on that. There's no rush. I mean, that's what I think we have to be everyone else to understand is we have plenty of time and we should get something that is reasonable and is and affordable that so people can make an informed decision.
So, Ty and Bond, the relationship with Ty and Bond, the longer this stretches out, is there an end to time for when that relationship is over?
That they were hired, I think by the initial committee made the decision to hire Time Bond. Now, if when we go back and, the state says, yeah, you can actually do these things and they balk and say, well, we don't have to do them. Then I think we, at full select, we would have to, then at that point, we address that.
I mean, my understanding was they have, things they said they would fulfill for their contract, and I would think you'd want them just to fulfill those things, and that's it.
Yeah,
Finish it.
they are supposed to give us a 90% report.
Right, that's what it's good.
In that 90% report include maybe their research a little further into
Sure,
all this alternatives.
yes.
And if they can't do it, I'll put them through another interview process. If they can't do it, then you cut the time.
So, all I can say is that once I sent a letter today, we're not having a meeting next week because of the holidays. But we'll have a meeting again in January, and at that point, I'll be able to give a more detailed report about the response to my letter. I don't think I'm gonna get a response anytime soon. It was a 2-page letter. It was pretty detailed, so.
Any other questions for the committee? If not, thank you, Seth.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. It was, I think that's very informative. Is there anything for the personnel committee? No?
I think so.
The next item is the beaver issue on Fisher Hill Road. Yes.
I had, on Fisher Hill Road, just before the schoolhouse, the beaver had put in 3 dams on the right-hand side. And their house is on the left-hand side. And before the rain today, they kept building them up higher and higher, and then eventually the water's gonna infringe on down part of it. So I had Morgan write a letter to the landowners, because the landowner owns that river. That river didn't used to go there. It used to go next to the road years ago. So they own that, so they're responsible for doing something with the dams. But I think after today, the dams are probably not there. But I think the beaver are still there because their house is still there. So when the water goes down, I think they'll probably start up again. So I just wanted approval from the board to send the landowner that letter. Stating, you know, they're responsible for it, and we offered some help in the letter for them to solve the problem.
Who are the landowners?
They own Hydro Fisher's farm, I don't know their name. You don't know their name, Morgan.
Eric and Marcel. I don't know how to pronounce their last name. Feidner and Sobero. I think they're relatively new.
So it's, do we need a motion to send a letter, or do we
Well,
just,
I think they need to prove it.
just an approval to send a letter? I think it'd be right to do so in the event that.
Eventually, you're gonna have problems with the town road, so.
If there's no objection,
I don't know.
Rich, you okay? All right, okay. Generator. With the connection with the Window Foundation. Would you like to speak, or do you want us to speak?
I can speak briefly. As most people know, we had to put in a new generator, which is now installed. And in late October, I sent a letter to the select board asking what you felt your fair contribution was as you share use of the system. Well, there's one error in the letter. It wasn't 120,000, it was $147,000. We have not paid it yet. We provide the service, we maintain the service. I just think it is fair, I know our board feels it is fair, that the town makes some contribution for that service. I did not specify a requested dollar figure in that letter. It could one-time payment or like an insurance policy, excess a year. I think that would be fair. And as a resident and taxpayer of this town, I don't think it's fair that the town is relying on a private organization and to provide municipal services.
I'll make the motion, we hook onto the foundation's generator.
I'd like to make an amendment to that we hook on and we install. Santa sticker. Excuse me, so it can be automatic.
Well, do we need to figure out what our contribution would be?
Do we have a dollar amount?
I mean, I've heard 15,000. What is it around?
I threw that out of what the ceiling is at one time, full, not annual, one time.
Yeah, and how much would it cost us to put in the engine, or more than that?
Yeah, what's the?
I met with 3 different salespeople, and each one, they're well over 15,000. And I had the conversation with each of them, and I was pretty transparent, and they said, you know, they're all salespeople, but based on the circumstances, we don't have a lot of space to install a generator and to do a propane tank and then to maintain that. It just, I mean, you guys know it adds up so fast. So they all felt it was kind of a no-brainer to just pay the fee, and they maintain it. They have a maintenance department that can, you know, do the basics. So that was the recommendation I got from those, but I can give you the actual bids if you'd like.
I don't think we have room to put a propane tank, because it has to be so far away from the property line and so far away from the lot, the building, and I don't.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think $15,000 seems very, very fair.
What would you say, is that the life of the generator, or is that 100 years, 50 years, 10 years? What are we,
Life of the generator, one-time fee for life of the generator. I'll second John's motion. When, sorry.
Just ask, are you going to do a legal agreement that's like part of the public record and recorded somewhere, so you all remember this?
Yes, Yeah.
Good.
yes, because, things could change over the years, and, if it's an agreement, the agreement should be honored by whoever is there.
Next one.
Add that to the motion, that it should be sent to the lawyer.
So do we agree on the price of 15?
I'm fine with the price, it just seems a little open-ended to me, I didn't get a little more detail as far as the longevity of the contract and everything else, it seems like we need one more little piece.
Well, if we agree to this, then we can draw up the agreement, and then the board can approve it.
It's all reasonable.
$15,000 one-time fee for the life of the generator, and we put into writing and signed by a
Yeah,
representative,
but make sure you add the transfer switches to that.
and signed by a representative from the Wyndham Foundation.
I did meet with Brookfield Services today and I just asked what the life expectancy of a generator of that size would roughly be. And Bob, if you were told a different, chime in, but he said offhand, could be 20 to 30 years, it depends. Okay, great.
Brookfield is.
Yes.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Joe, one question, you said transfer switch. There
For
is
us.
some- there's-
For us, so that we don't have to come back at 11 o'clock at night and push the switches because the power failure went out. So it would be totally automatic on our building. It would have, it would transfer, in other words, your generator would kick on, the transfer switch would kick on, and then it would just energize the building. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay. All right, Bob, thanks. All right, stay here, because I think there's another thing here. The village drainage, pipe agreement that we talked about. John, met with an engineer, so why don't you tell him exactly the thing that he's gonna have.
Friday, Morgan and myself met with an engineer from Chester. And he came over to give us some ideas on, what we could do. It was at no cost, and, the first thing he said was, I'm not interested in the job, but I will give you some ideas. And he did give us some ideas on some grants that would help pay for it. The wastewater grant is one of them, and ARPA funds too. And then he gave us the names of two other engineers that we could ask too for some ideas. And at that point, I guess we were a little bit ahead of what we should be. We should have asked the board for permission to do this. And also, we should have a representative from the foundation whenever we do have a meeting on that subject.
Is that okay with you?
Yes, I had a brief conversation with Morgan this morning, she did mention that.
Yeah.
We'd definitely be interested. I don't know if even most of the audience knows what we're talking about here. Some culverts were put in town in the 70s, and the only documentation they ever can find is if there was a joint Wyndham Foundation town of Griffith deal, and we have had some issues included in Cooperman's property this year. So it's an issue that pops up originally, the Gilbert Martin at her property a couple of years ago. It's a Band-Aid right now, so we certainly have to do something with it longer term. So we'd be very interested in participating.
Yeah, John's thought is that if we could shortcut that pipe system and we can get it into another catch basin here, that would be far less than digging up everybody's backyard and installing a new pipe. I don't know, what was the number the guy said?
He tossed out a figure $750,000. But he said you should be able to get a grant that would cover it all except for 10%.
So that you can let us know about who the contact person would be for Morgan, so when
Sure.
the engineers come.
I'll talk with Morgan, I'll get facilities manager, Red Hodgkin, but I'm very interested myself.
But this agreement also should be sent to a lawyer
Yes,
and. All right,
Do you think there's a possible solution to keep the water on?
it's just John's thoughts.
that's why we want to have the engineers come and take a look at it.
That'd be nice.
I mean, even if you had to dig up the street,
Right,
it would be far cheaper than what going through everybody's backyard and all the complications that are gonna arise that we don't all know about.
if it's all in the right problem, so.
I agree. Okay.
You're gonna vote
What those agreement?
for us, so we can go ahead.
Do we need to vote for that? Yes.
Yes, we should.
We should, okay, so someone make a motion.
What's the motion?
We need the motion that we should go ahead with the engineer, along with the foundation to do a study of the drainage pipe, whatever you want to call.
Ask them to give us some information at no cost,
Yeah.
before we start spending any money.
And is this for John and I to be meeting with these engineers?
Well, with these Wind Foundation and John and yourself, yes. Or anybody else who needs to go.
Who wants to?
Okay, Kathy, moved it, I have a second.
I can't see the end.
Okay, Rich seconded.
Yes.
There's no other discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Do we have any other business? Any other business? Do we have any public comment? Okay, Lindy?
Has anybody been down Clear Hill Road today to see what happened again down there? I just wanted on the meeting record that there was flooding down there again, at Patsy's house. John again saw it. It's didn't hurt the Brailsfords this time, but Patsy's process damaged again. So.
When did that happen, Patsy? When I looked around in 2:30, it like the river was still in the banks, when did that happen?
It wasn't at 2:30, it was already up. It was
Oh, really?
early by the house, yeah.
I was in early in the morning, like 11, 12 o'clock.
10:30.
I got home from work at 11:30 and it was up and over the bank.
Right, yeah.
And coming into the house.
Yeah, I wrote down and John wrote down and it was obvious that it was
I
there.
can't see the end of your pipe, please.
Yeah.
You're like conduit, you're talking about your pipe. I don't know where it is. It's under rocks or something. I don't know. It's big.
Behind the house, but it didn't-
So there's something.
No, we were there. It didn't get up to the well. It was a little less, it did get as far as the top. But it was wild. I mean, the whole shorts side, most of them are gone.
Well, thank God the sun came out about 11:30-ish. And it stopped.
Yeah, and then it got worse around
Yeah.
2:33 or, yeah.
Back up again?
and something happened upstream probably. A big rush of water.
Yeah, so in that context, I mean, I would make a couple comments that I've encouraged you before to work on some long-term master plan to deal with the obvious problems we're facing from climate change and other things like that. I think that like what John's talking about for the homes represents a really great start for thinking about things in very different ways.
I think the brick was up and over.
Oh, the culvert behind, I mean, sure, put it on the record, the culvert behind my barn that I endlessly complain about, that over top today as well. That adds to damage on my property, nothing much happened about it. It's an annoyance, I'm sure that I'm not alone, having that kind of damage. That's why long-term plans seems infinitely more important to me today than that wastewater system. I think if you spend those millions of dollars on some of these water issues that we're having, meaning stormwater issues, I think the community will be better soon. That's just my public comment.
Yeah, I think it'll be a different That'd be a different grant, obviously.
Yeah.
That's something we can look into.
But in the emergency committees, people have been talking with FEMA and the state, and we are getting some mitigation on certain culverts and everything else, so that is. We are aware if we can improve, then it should mitigate damage in the future. And that's something we're looking at.
I would say as long as there's a more global plan, because when we fix a problem here and you fix a problem, you fix this problem, fix that problem. But it's,
Yeah.
as we all know, it's all interrelated.
Yeah, I'd love to see it written into the town plan, actually,
Yeah.
and that connects to the thing, so, and that includes, I was surprised when, I don't think I've ever been on a planning commission meeting, I had no idea that our town plan would not include things about wastewater, stormwater, and,
Utilities.
yeah,
Yeah.
utilities, clean water. I think those things should be in the town plan, I don't know how that managed to escape the town plan. So,
When was the next town plan due? 2028?
You can amend it, you can amend the town thing.
Yeah, you can amend it.
I mean, anything like a statement in there about what the long-term goals are would be really.
But, you know, you might wanna, they might wanna think of doing that. That could be a simple amendment, you know, it might be too late to do it, obviously, for this town meeting, but you could do it for next year. And have what you're saying, is put some language in there for it. Because that's what the town plan is for, it's supposed to be a guide.
Yeah, and that might have guided the topic of the fire district.
Could be.
So, I'm coming, planning commissioner.
No.
Continually kindly the resident. I'm getting older. I get calm.
Any other comments? If not, the next regular meeting is a capital budget hearing on Tuesday, January 2nd, because January 1st is a holiday. Here at 5:45, and immediately after that will be the select board meeting at 6 p.m. or thereabouts. We need a motion to go into an executive session regarding securing some real estate.
So moved.
And we'll make a motion to do so. Kathy says, John second. Thank you for coming.
Also more than maybe over the second.